And welcome back to Bros in a Landfill. Meow.
God damn it. I'm your Lunchbillion for today, and this is...
I'm your Trybien today.
And we haven't done a podcast in 1,000,000 trillion years, also known as a couple of months? Several months?
Yeah, November. Last one was November. I think we've had one person asking where the podcasts were.
Well,
Frank,
we don't do that shit anymore, but we come out of the woodwork for Sonic.
I mean, would you rather us force ourselves to do podcasts every month, or just hop on when we have something to actually talk about?
I like the idea that we only have something to say once every 6 months.
No, only once the Sonic thing comes out.
Only when a Sonic thing comes out.
Look, Tar's not here, so I can say this. Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced today. That's it for the Kingdom Hearts conversation.
Wow. You just because he's not here, you're holding back on it?
No, let's be real. No one's here to listen about Kingdom Hearts. They're here to listen about Sonic. Sonic 2, the movie. Was it good? Was it not good? I went and I watched it earlier with my dad. I told Lunch this a few weeks ago when it was coming into theaters. So when the first Sonic movie came out, I took my dad to go see it with me, just as an excuse to have like a father-son thing. You know the drill.
That's sweet. Yeah.
He actually really likes the Sonic movie. So when I told him that the Sonic 2 movie was coming to theaters, he was like all hyped up and was excited to go see it. So
I'm very curious to know, like, honestly, I know that this is a podcast for our opinions, but I want to hear your dad's opinion, because I'm curious as to, like, someone going into the first movie with no preconceived, like, years-long obsession with Sonic, like, what would speak to them from that movie, and then how much would the second movie address that connection? Because, like, I feel like a lot of what the second movie does is lean in more towards people who like the games, and has a bit less of that kind of, like, Hollywood Alvin and the Chipmunks kind of magic from the first movie, you know?
Yeah, I don't know if we could extract like anything like substantial from my dad in terms of why he liked movies. He's not someone who particularly talks about why he likes movies. He's someone who just likes what he likes. I mean,
I have trouble connecting with people like that. I get confused. Like, what do you mean you don't have an essay ready?
No, I understand. No, but for him, my dad likes movies in the first place, especially like action-y movies or whatnot. Plus he's kind of like a little bit of a child at heart when it comes to these sorts of things.
Yeah.
There's a lot of movies that we see it like people say are conventionally bad that he loves. Like he just loves goofy Hollywood
he seems like a good guy to go to the movies with. I want to see more movies with your dad.
As long as it's a fun movie and it isn't like dry or slow or
no, like, this is hardly like a slow, depressing drama or something. It's like it's very chipper.
It's a movie about responsibility, and you know,
nothing
more responsible than taking your dad to see the movies with you.
Welcome to Bros in the Landfill. Did Trybien's dad like Sonic 2? It's interesting you mentioned...
The answer might surprise you.
It's interesting you mentioned like what the movie is about, because I feel like I think this movie does a lot of things. It does a lot of things. The point where what the movie's about I found a bit difficult to discern, or I guess it had lots of things going on. I know that responsibility was part of it, friendship and connection was part of it.
I definitely think the core theme of the movie was responsibility, but keeping in mind that this is also a kids movie, like this is very much tailored towards the kids of people who grew up with Sonic. So this is Sonic fans who are bringing their kids to the theaters. Like I feel like it's given that it's written as a kids movie, I didn't necessarily expect them to go into like its themes particularly deeply, but I'd say like the overarching like through of the movie is responsibility and how Knuckles, like both Sonic and Knuckles are these characters that Sonic's been someone who's been shirking responsibility, and he's been learning about that, where Knuckles is someone who's his whole conceit, like in his whole like mentality, at least early in the movie, is I have this responsibility to do this thing,
Yes.
regardless, like without even considering the consequences or understanding the things go like all the circling thing is I have this one thing I'm supposed to do. I don't care what anybody else says. I'm just going to do my thing that I'm supposed to do, and that eventually causes bad outcomes.
Yeah, so like, it's definitely playing with the idea of responsibility, and that Knuckles observation is a good one. I think maybe what my brain is latching onto is that the first movie is such a simple movie with such simple stakes, with like there's not that much going on, and it's just completely like a road trip movie about like family and friendship and I guess feeling at home somewhere. And then the second movie is like it's a lot more like one of those Marvel movies where they're like packing every character in. Like for me, this is almost
Yeah,
like the Civil War of
yeah.
or
Well,
the Marvel Civil
it's
War
funny
of Sonic, because
I-
there's just so many characters and plots happening.
Okay, well, before we get into spoilers, before people like jump off, I want to at least say that I did like this one better than the first Sonic movie. I think it is like the first the first movie I thought was good, and I think especially in terms of it both being a kids movie and a video game movie, it is better than a lot of its contemporaries in those categories.
Yeah.
It's still not, I wouldn't necessarily is a great movie, but within both of those categories, finding a great kids, like a fantastic like 10 out of 10 kids movie or a fantastic 10 out of 10 video game movie is a tall ask, and I definitely think it is in the top percentile of kids movies and video game movies.
It's definitely one of the better video game movies ever. And
Yeah.
like there's a strong argument. Obviously, I think the Ace Attorney movie is the best video game movie.
Well, no, okay,
but the Sonic
best
movie
video
is
game
way up there.
Hollywood movie. We talk about Hollywood movies. If we
Yeah.
start bringing-
I think
If we like trying to compare Hollywood movies to Japanese movies is a complete.
oh yeah, no,
it's like
that Ace Attorney movie is wild. So
it'd be like
yeah.
trying to compare the Netflix Death Note to the Japanese live action Death Note.
Right, different planets, huh? Well,
Yeah.
okay. I think in terms of Hollywood, you could probably say it was, or at least was, the best video game adaptation movie. Yeah, my opinion is that both of these movies are okay. I liked
Yeah.
both of them. I think there's this kind of it's really interesting. Like it feels like there's these two kind of pulling forces on it. Like there's like I watched the Game Apologist briefly talk about the Sonic 2 movie, where he I think he talks about the dance scene in Sonic 2 as being the lost dregs of the Alvin and the Chipmunks energy or something like that. And it's like I get that. And it feels like there's on one hand there's like super authentic video gamey stuff, and then there's this kind of what Hollywood wants to do with it. And it's an interesting push and pull, because obviously we want to see video gamey things and we want to be Sonic and we want the integrity of the brand to be there. But on the other side, while there is like a bunch of I guess a bunch of corny shit or stuff that feels like a bit generic, the Hollywood side of it also brings a lot more cohesion and care to Sonic's lore and characters than Sonic's games have ever had.
There were moments in the movie that made me actually think and question the Sonic lore in the video games that in ways I have never had done before.
Yeah, they made I don't want to get too much in spoilers just yet. I guess we'll have a point of no return, but like they what they did with Knuckles, the Knuckles lore, having Sonic and Knuckles lore together, like easily superior to how it's ever been depicted in the games. Like in terms of like just clear narratively. Like I mean, within Sonic 1, 2, and 3, like the games, those are obviously their narratives are more implied, first. Right? But when it comes to games,
they're games first.
Yeah. And they do a story that is open to interpretation. But when it comes to like adventure or heroes or anything like that, like this movie runs circles around any of them. Like it makes it all cohesive. It makes Knuckles a cohesive and compelling character. So yeah, I think there's a lot of actual. I think there's some pros and cons to like the Hollywood adaptation of Sonic. And overall, I think it makes a movie it's pretty good. It's got I think this movie has a lot to like in it.
I think back to like something you brought up after you watched the first Sonic movie, which was you were in the theater, the movie ended, the end credits scene happened, and then that kid in the theater was excited about more Sonic.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that kind of like sent like that. It's kind of like the core for me when I'm thinking about these Sonic movies. Is that these are kids movies. These aren't like necessarily being made for an older audience.
Yeah.
But they know who their audience is. Like the people who are going to be taking kids to see the Sonic movie are the people who like they are the adults who played Sonic growing up. And to an extent, like I think back to something like Shrek. Shrek is a kids movie, and the way they keep the adults entertained in Shrek is by making dirty adult jokes that the kids that go over the kids' head, but the adults enjoy. Sonic, being a classic property, gets around that for the most part. I mean, there's still some of those like edgy jokes that only adults will understand.
Sure, but it's nostalgic and nice just for adults to see something that they loved as kids, but fully realize on a screen and more fidelity than ever.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely get the point that they are kids movies, and I think more that I even enjoy the movies as movies, I enjoy what they are for the franchise and for new generations and like for kids. Like it's such a. I mentioned in my other video about these movies, but I think they're just a win for the franchise. And I really like that.
I think they're better as kids movies. I will be completely honest. If they try to if they try to appeal to like a teenage or older audience, we would have gotten something like the Mario movie. We would have got something unnecessarily edgy. We would have part of what makes Sonic, like especially like classic Sonic, we're talking about like early generation Sonic, is there's a whimsy to it.
Yeah,
and I don't
Sonic
think
is definitely
Hollywood is
a kids franchise. It should be,
I,
but and I think if you're an adult getting into Sonic, it should kind of make you feel like a kid again. I think is probably ideal.
Yeah, I made me feel like a kid again at times.
I guess I'll just say that like, I think sometimes people act like there's a bigger issue reconciling a kids movie with adults than there has to be. Like I think there are a lot of kids movies, so obviously aimed at kids, but are still really good as an adult. Like Lilo and Stitch. That movie fucking owns, no matter how old you are. But it's obviously, it's got like it's about a little girl and like a little alien pet thing, and it's got lots of visual gags and stuff. But I don't know. I prefer it when kids, I guess kids media can appeal to adults on all levels. And with Sonic, it feels like as an adult, there's a bit more compromise for the kids, but it's not enough to damage the movie.
Yeah, I agree with you. Where I'm gonna and I don't even think you'll disagree with this statement. I don't necessarily think the problem is much to do with the movie compromising for kids. I just think there's a certain there's a certain Hollywood perspective to what is supposed to be in a kids movie. It's like how that old meme, like, oh, every like kids movie has to end in a dance sequence.
Yeah,
like, obviously this movie doesn't. Like there are because
it's earlier.
Movies, yeah. It's early. I'll take it earlier in a good context in the movie than like having the big happy dance sequence that goes with the credits.
Yeah.
But because like it's the same reason why we're getting another as Minions movie, why there's like a bunch of like Illumination films and whatnot, is like there's Hollywood, like, and the executives and the producers there are fully aware of certain tropes that are safe.
Yeah,
and that both fill time and keep kids occupied. Now, granted, it can be at the detriment of the narrative. I'd say even for a lot of times, those sort of things are detrimental to the narrative and the actual
and I think
story, but they don't.
It doesn't ruin this movie, but I definitely think it's the low
I
points of
think
this movie are when it's doing that kind of stuff.
like I will say I feel like they managed to do it better than most kids movies that are stuck with those check marks, but the fact that they're there still is a negative.
I
It's
think
like,
for me it just feels a bit lazy or a bit soulless. But I mean, I guess it's fine because like if you're a kid, then these tropes are new to you, and
yeah.
I guess that's all good. But yeah, I feel like in this movie, like I guess this is slightly dipping into spoiler territory.
Yeah,
But
so I think we can move to the spoiler chat
let,
after.
let's call this the point of no return because I think we've
Yeah, so
spoken
this is a spoiler
generally
return.
enough
Yep.
about the movie. Um,
Yeah.
but
Yep. So spoiler. Is in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
so Sonic and Tails do a dance off in like a
Yes.
Scandinavian cabin bar thing.
I guess this is a spoiler.
Yeah, I guess. And look, it's like the plot has just been like really set running on its wheels, and like it's like, all right, we've got to go find the hidden map or whatever, and like Knuckles is coming after us. Like it's kind of there's all this momentum, and then they like stay in a cabin for like what feels like 10 years, and like they lose the map in the cabin and they have to do a dance off with like the guys in there so they don't get thrown into a fireplace, which is funny, and I get that the point of the scene is for Sonic and Tails to bond and then afterwards
Well, I think
like
not just
open up
that.
about their feelings.
Well, I think not just about that. I think it's also for it kind of serves at this moment where Tails gets confidence in himself.
Yeah. It's mostly to develop Sonic and Tails and Tails. The thing that bothers me about it is that like it doesn't otherwise move the plot forwards. It feels like the plot is pausing to give Tails some attention.
Yeah.
And in the context of the entire movie, where like he's like a corpse for like a third of it, like he doesn't. Tails ultimately doesn't feel super organically part of the plot. Like
Yeah.
it's the plot is just clunky. It doesn't just kind of
yeah.
zip along.
Tails is definitely was one of the weaker links in the story. He kind of just served that he almost like just kind of had a MacGuffin sort of, or like a Deus Ex Machina sort of feel of like, oh, he's coming in to tell Sonic there's this thing you need to do. Oh no, Sonic. And
Yeah,
then he pops back up in the end and
he feels like he's there because he's in the video games.
yeah.
And he does like have some interesting stuff to make Sonic develop. And he does have some interesting development in his own right, but he's not very organically in the plot. And he like
Which
everything that's important about Tails is like the conversation after the cabin, and then he's just kind of around. Like
which is
if
really, really weird.
if I was your
because
dad,
he-
I feel like I'd be like, who is this guy? Like, why is he so important? You know?
But like it's really weird because the movie was billed as Sonic 2 with Tails.
Yeah.
Like this is more of a Sonic and Knuckles movie than it is a Sonic and
100%.
Tails movie.
Like instead of calling it Sonic 2, they could have called it Sonic and Knuckles. And I think in Japan it's even
Yeah.
called Sonic versus Knuckles, which is funny.
I mean, I feel like I wouldn't have minded. Like, I mean, I would have minded the way that Tails was treated in the movie, but I wouldn't have minded as much if it was a bit like if it was marketed differently. But
yeah, well, it's named Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which is the video game that where Tails is part of it. You know,
like in a lot of weird ways, this was like this movie was Sonic 2 and 3 kind of jammed together into.
I do like
one
that
narrative
though.
and
I like how
Yeah,
they
I do.
they adapted. I mean, Sonic 2's plot isn't really. I think it's basically just a Sonic
Yeah.
game, right? 3 is the one
Yeah,
that
I mean,
has
it's
more
like-
story beats. So
Yeah, so like it's like Sonic 1 was like before Green, like before like it's kind of like prologue and Sonic 1.
yes,
And then this is like Sonic 2, which makes me think the next movie is going to be Sonic Adventure 1 and 2. Like obviously end credit scene shadows there.
yeah.
I
would
wonder if the
I think we should speculate about what
Yeah.
the next movie could be after we've talked
Yeah.
more about this one. But I
Yeah, we
do
can talk
want to
about
do
that
that. I'm excited to do that.
yeah,
But yeah, I think this is definitely more of a Knuckles movie, and to their credit, I think, like I mentioned before, this is the best version of Knuckles. Period. I've always found Knuckles to be a character that is not fully cohesive, or there's not a full vision. I think in Sonic 3, it's fine because like there's only a little bit of story to work with, and the arc is there.
Yeah.
But I think ever since then, I think Sega doesn't know what his personality is, what he wants, what the fuck he's doing.
Well,
So they
well,
really
I think
nailed it here.
well, I think they also managed to give a lot more justification. Like, so, like, on one hand, I'm not super big on the whole like, Knuckles kind of being like the dumb brute sort of
Mm,
guy. Like, I like his character. I kind of like his adventure and hero's character writing a bit
mm.
more, despite his actual like backstory and like his everything else around him being a bit like not the best written.
Mm.
But like, I feel like at least in this case, like, going the whole idea like he's part of like this tribe and whatnot, like, and like he like it building into this, he's like this character who's like this one tracked minded. I've got this responsibility, I'm supposed to do this thing. Like, I feel like there's a lot more justification for why he may not be the brightest, or he's
No,
just
it's
kind of the
endearing,
muscle.
right? He's a layered
Yeah.
character who is like, and it's not just that he is stupid. He's
Yeah.
like naive and in his own way
Yeah.
kind of sheltered. Like he only knows like his very particular
Yeah,
worldview.
and they go out of that, they go out of the way to make it show that he's not dumb, he's just naive.
Yeah, and he's
gotta-
also like has his fucking trauma and stuff. Like, man, and like he's like Sonic, he's been alone and he's kind of reacted to it differently.
And
The part where like Knuckles realizes Eggman has betrayed him and he says, "I thought you were my friend," my heart actually broke for him.
yeah,
like,
that was rough.
I was like, no, because he's such a badass character the entire time, and it just like shows you this level of vulnerability. I mean, he already had bits of that and bits of inner conflict, but that part, it was like, oh man.
Well,
And they've never done that in the like in the games. It always feels like, at least after the original games, it always feels a bit like, you know, what a fool or something, and
yeah.
it's a completely different emotional reaction.
I think part of that as well is just like how sincere Knuckles is
Yes.
written.
No, they respected him. Sorry, I'll let you finish.
Yeah.
I got excited.
No, you go. Like, I was.
No.
They absolutely respect him. Yeah.
It's no, Knuckles is a character who's beloved, and he has not been given like real respect by Sega for a really long time, and they made him a major character. They made him part of the story. They made him a comprehensible, cohesive character, and I don't know, like I feel like fans have been wanting something like this for years, and he's been shafted, you know. So like, something about that's crazy about this movie franchise, especially after how we saw it start, was that like it's become more respectful of the Sonic legacy of these characters than the actual games have in years, which is, it's just really cool, and Idris Elba fucking nails that role as well.
Yeah.
It feels like this is how Knuckles should be.
Yeah. I do want to take a step, since we're talking about like how well treated Knuckles was. Like, on the other hand, I feel like I'm getting kind of tired of this version of Eggman, like
Interesting.
Robotnik. Like, one of the like I think I managed. I didn't mind the quirkiness and stuff so much in the first movie. That since he's like, he's supposed to be like this like tech guy that's like this like quirky genius tech guy and whatnot and stuff. But I feel like so it feels weird to me because everybody else, like all the other characters, especially compared to like someone like Knuckles, is so much more brought down to earth compared to the rest of the, like, compared to the game versions.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
And where Eggman feels like he's far more cartoonish than he ever was in the games.
That's fair. I think
like
in the first movie, Eggman, I think, as part of, I guess, the whole idea of adapting a character to the big screen and to Hollywoodifying him, like, he has like he has like some semblance of backstory. He has more place in the world, and he has like he's like a defined character where he's like he believes superior to
Yeah.
everyone and he has a huge chip on his shoulder because of it. He has this kind of inferiority or superiority complex, and arrogance, and just kind of self-hatred at the core of it. And then in the second movie, he's just gone completely fucking crazy from isolation. And so
Yeah.
he's wacky, but there's also, I guess, a bit less going on in terms of his character.
Yeah.
And
I
and
think
it is distinctly different from the games.
Yeah, what I think I would have liked more is if rather than like making him just seem like this crazy person, like really lead into that seething, because that rage and anger at Sonic is there, but I feel like that is taking so much of a back seat to just like, oh, I'm power hungry now. You know? Like I don't like it really just feels like it just turned into, oh, he wants the MacGuffin so he can take over the world.
No,
Which,
I think I get where you're coming from. For me, I think there's enough just general Jim Carrey charisma that I'm cool with it.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I just enjoy watching him and watching him be in his element. And I also don't mind that he's a bit that like there is some deviation from game Eggman, because I think
yeah.
Eggman and other canons is already like, depending on the game, it really shifts up like how strange, how cute he is, how evil he is, how bumbling or intelligent he is. So like I do appreciate how in the movies he's always sinister and always evil. He's never soft in that way, but he's still comedic because he is silly.
Yeah, I guess maybe like it like I don't it's not like I don't necessarily want like a softer, more vulnerable. Like I do like the parts I liked the most out of this when he was just like being sinister and spiteful towards Sonic and stuff. But like I think maybe just the whole like it was maybe too much all the time.
I'd say that's a criticism I probably have of this movie as a whole. I think this movie is too much all the time. I think like the first movie is kind of slow in my opinion, and but the second movie is just there's constantly something happening. There's always an explosion. There's always a quip. I think it could settle down a little bit, but it's also long. How long? It felt long.
It felt long, yeah. Like, well, I feel like that's the other thing that we talked about, like it, like kind of like merging the second and third game together, but in some ways, it felt like it had so much it wanted to accomplish in such a short period of time. There was never any like downtime. Like when they showed off that map, I'm like, oh, they're gonna be having to travel to these different places and then all of a sudden, like we spend like 10 minutes or so, like in this lodge, and then all of a sudden now it's in Hawaii, and up now we're
there's so much happening. I get they're trying to cram it all in, and I think it's funny I'm saying it needs to slow down more, but when my other criticism is that I think they need to shave a few parts down. Like I think it's been said a lot of times, but the wedding subplot goes on for a strangely long amount of time. I actually like the wedding subplot, but it just keeps going. Okay.
Here's the crazy thing. Like no joke, at the start of the movie when they were going off to Hawaii and they're doing like, oh, Sonic's home alone.
Yeah.
I just like, ugh. And then they start focusing more time the moment where I really became worried was when they were doing like an off like the thing in the Hawaii, and then the bride's like, you better not do anything to ruin this wedding. I'm like, oh no, it's going to be one of these movies, because I hate this sort of subplot so much.
Really?
And then the whole like ring bearer thing happens. I'm like, oh no, it's going to do this. And then it does the whole like, oh, he somehow mixed up the rings. Like, what was he doing with the other ring in his hand?
I kind of loved it.
How did I know it's stupid. But the crazy thing is, the payoff is worth it with the whole like the entire thing being a setup.
No, I like the I like the
I know,
subplot. There's just like
like
the movie as a whole is so
it,
much going on, and I think we didn't need quite so much
and then-
like the
and then
bride like going on like a freaking rage mission. Like you
I
just need
know.
to shave off at least a couple of minutes. But I do like that plot.
Here's like the entire like my entire like, take the entire wedding subplot needs to like, despite the payoff and the joke being great, I feel like those need to like, that entirely just needs to be shaved down or removed. Like the whole gun reveal, like, okay, was that really necessary? Like none of the stuff in the wedding actually ended up mattering in the whole thing, other than getting Sonic to being close to, well, Sonic and Tails close to where the Master Emerald was.
Yeah, and the
Like,
writers could have put the Master Emerald anywhere, so it doesn't really.
yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Well, they had they had the teleportation rings. Like they didn't like
Hmm.
like it could have been in Hawaii. They could have been doing that thing while the wedding was happening. Gun could have popped up.
I did love Sonic
they-
running over the ocean dramatically,
Oh yeah, that was
and
yeah. I
how
definitely think that was
they
great.
repeatedly kind of brought up his whole like fear of water thing. I did like that.
I think actually that's another thing. The attention to detail, like of running really fast over the ocean, because it's something that's trivialized in a lot of media. But the fact
Yeah,
of the matter is, the ocean's a crazy place.
that was
And you see
really
Sonic
cool.
trying to
Yeah.
run. It's like that's the sort of thing you'd see, like you'd expect. Oh, he's just gonna be running over flat water. And no, he's running through like the actual ocean
Yeah,
as it's being crazy.
I that was really inventive, and it's cool seeing people put a new touch on Sonic and consider things like that, and like play that for drama, especially because Sonic isn't supposed to like water. So that they made that quite a tense scene. I thought it was kind of making me
Yeah.
anxious. And
Yeah.
then they played later on with like Sonic being stuck underwater in like the labyrinth,
Yeah.
and like he even like eats the air bubble. Like that was pretty fucking sick.
Yeah, that was great. I mean,
Um,
just I like the whole labyrinth thing in general, because I felt like the closest thing we had to an actual like Sonic stage.
yeah,
in-
for sure. Like as opposed to seeing like it had like it was a full on like level that we saw the characters run through and dodge spikes and stuff. It was like,
Yeah,
okay, this is.
it's like I want to play that.
I love how they managed to make this movie really Sonic-y in a lot of great ways, which is why a dance off to Bruno Mars in a random cabin feels so strange as well. I don't know. It's
the whole, I will say, the whole part with like the holograms was kind of cool, and the choreography was like, despite that being a strange scene, I do feel like there was actually like, I feel like the choreography of the dancing.
sure. Well,
was,
again, it's like there's
at
lots of
least-
things where I don't have too much criticism in isolation, but I think as a movie, I
Yeah,
think it's
Yeah, as a
bloated, which is the
whole,
main reason I think the
yeah.
movie's just okay. And I think I would have a hard time recommending the movie to my friends who are not into Sonic or not into kind of
Yeah.
goofy animation stuff.
or don't have like little kids to take.
Yeah, I
with
think
them.
taking kids would be cool.
I actually think this is a better kids movie than the first one.
Oh, well,
But-
it'll hold the kids' attention better, surely. But
Yeah.
except for maybe the wedding bit. But I don't know.
Oh, no,
Kids can like
they-
movies with real
No,
actors
the
in
kids,
them.
The kid. I think the kids would get like, with how quickly some of that stuff is directed and like things just happen in the wedding scene. I don't think they tune out too quickly. Plus, once the gun stuff happens, it's pretty zany.
It is cute that the plane that like Tails' plane is like a plane that was hired for the wedding. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of a funny tie-in.
There's a lot of fun little attention to details. Actually, I think something I was thinking about, I think, and this is kind of like why I'm excited to see like where this goes, is I feel like the movie is trying to grow up with the audience. So like the first movie is kind of like, it's kind of like, it's kind of slow grabbing its feet, like it's finding its feet and stuff. It's
Yeah.
experimenting, making things like set up, but it's very like very innocent. The first movie is a very innocent.
Yeah,
Movie.
and then there's a bit more growing up kind of stuff happening in the next one, and there's more like hey, my whole family died in a war, you know, like
Yeah, well, and I think that's kind of like, I think something the second movie kind of captures is like that sort of like chaotic time where you're still trying to have fun as a kid, but you're also like things are getting more complicated, and you're having to like, and you're having to face the ramifications of the consequences of actions more so.
this might be a good place even to transition to talking about what the next movie could be like, because it feels like
Mm-hmm.
that on some level they're building to Sonic Adventure 2, because they've
Yeah.
introduced Gun, and
Mm-hmm.
they've and the post credit scene obviously they introduced Shadow. So I don't know. I feel like
Well,
my initial
it's
thought on seeing Shadow was that like with what Shadow's story is really about, I'm not sure the movies can pull this off. But at least in a way that is sincere rather than mocking its own premise. But I think thinking about it, like Knuckles is treated with real respect and seriously, and he has both him and Sonic have backstories where their whole families or surrogate families were lost
well
in conflict. I wonder if maybe they can just barely walk the tightrope on Shadow.
something. Well, here's the thing that like kind of confuses me going forward with, because as I was saying earlier, like this one's a kind of a fusion of 2 and 3. I kind of get the feeling the next one's going to be kind of a fusion of Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2, if they're going down this
I think we're
route.
skipping Adventure 1, honestly.
Yeah,
I don't. Adventure 1 and 2 are
there's
not
a
very similar in terms of what's going on.
yeah, it's hard because I guess something that, like one of the things that like going into the second movie that was like kind of crossing my mind is there going to be Metal Sonic, and how would they pull it off? Because it doesn't make sense in this, like it doesn't make sense in the canon of like the technology and stuff. Like that I feel like Eggman making a Metal Sonic would have like been a kind of jumping the shark moment. Now I think with the Master Emerald that may have been possible, but that doesn't sound like in
No, they
character for him
used
to
the
be like
Master Emerald to make Eggman
like a Death Egg sort of situation, which makes more sense than him trying to make a Metal Sonic.
dude, he like floats around and straight up like kind of like
Yeah,
arms extended like a
he
weirdly
does the
kind
Hollywood
of
thing.
Christ pose. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, he does the Hollywood thing. It's great.
Yeah.
So, but that kind of puts the with the liberties they're taking with the canon, but like the movies are clearly inspired by. I'd say the movies' canons are more inspired by the games necessarily than being adaptations of the games.
Yeah. But they got the broad
I'm
strokes
really
of Sonic 3.
yeah. It's a broad strokes.
You kind of
like,
have to with the
it makes
early
me
games as well because they're video
yeah.
games first, you know.
See, and that's the thing that gets me with the adventure games is because the adventure games are more narratives.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily buy like, especially with how they're setting things up. I don't necessarily buy that Shadow is going to be necessarily the antagonist. I don't know if they're gonna like. I don't think they want to reuse the whole big giant robot from Eggman again. Like I think it would make sense to have like Chaos be the big bad of the next movie.
Yeah.
Like the actual the actual final boss.
I mean, Adventure 2 does end with a big crazy monster fight, you know. Because of the bio lizard. Though I guess in Adventure 2 the bio lizard just kind of shows up at the end, while in Adventure 1 Chaos is like part of the plot the entire time. Yeah, I guess it depends on how they choose to adapt things. I feel like Adventure has a lot going on with the echidnas and the old echidnas, which we kind of just looked at. You got the whole thing where Tikal and Chaos were like inside the Master Emerald, but now the Master Emerald is like a carry case for the Chaos Emeralds. I mean, they could change how everything works, though.
Yeah, like and there's kind of like two like things that like I'm stuck out. One is now, like we're at a stage of like the status quo at the end of Sonic 2 is you have the main three characters who just watch over, like they're like the guardians of the Master Emerald now. They're just they have the Master Emerald. So and then we have the setup of there's Shadow, Now, the weird the weird thing about I think I maybe and maybe you can answer some of these questions better because you're more familiar with Sonic lore.
Sure.
But in the games, I think some of the silliness of Shadow existing can is can make more sense. Like him being this ultimate life form created. But in the movie universe, are we are we to believe that
a creature that looks exactly
just,
like Sonic was made
Sonic
50 years ago by complete coincidence? Yeah, in the games, that's already a hard sell in the games, but in the movies where you're actually meant to take it in as a narrative first and foremost, it is weird.
Where the canon actually matters.
Now, there is, in the games, there is fan theory that, a particular fan theory that I really like is that in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, there's a mural on a wall that's Sonic fighting the final boss of that game in space, but it's people like to kind of fan theorize that Gerald Robotnik would have seen that ancient mural and tried to recreate tried to create the prophecy himself, and therefore made Shadow. But that would be kind
of hard in this canon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a bit harder to swallow. I mean, I don't think Earth knows about alien worlds even in the present. Cause in the Sonic universe, there's multiple planets and the animal characters are from other worlds and stuff. No, it could work because there's Monster Emerald stuff on Earth. You could finagle it, I think. I just think it would be better if it was set up or in the other movies, if that mural or whatever was in Sonic 1 or 2. But I think you could make up something. I mean, Shadow in general is fucking wacky. You could do some fucking, if you really wanted to combine a bunch of different stories, maybe there's time travel involved. I don't know, because Sonic CD is all about time travel. Yeah, I think there already will involve a bit of Sonic CD, because I reckon the next one will probably have Amy, and that's the first game she comes from. So, I don't know, but okay. I think the lore logistics of how to get Shadow in the picture are probably one of the less important things. I think writers can make up a way, and they've already been very willing to remix the Sonic lore.
Well, I'm not questioning if they're going to be able to do it. It's just how they do it is gonna, I think, very much depend on what direction they're taking the movie in the first place. If that makes, because that's because even the point where they end off the movie, it's they discover like the whole Project Shadow thing, being brought up by Gunn, feels like the government is gonna revive Shadow or whatever, or it's I'm kind of confused where the.
Honestly, I don't think the writers currently know what the fuck is happening with Shadow.
Well, I don't. I think they have a broad idea of what they want the third movie to be, but nothing particularly concrete. It's just when you already have the first movie, which is loosely adapting the first game. You have the second movie loosely adapting the second and third games. It leads us to believe that the next movie is going to be adapting the adventure games, and maybe CD, since CD falls somewhere in there, but I'm not sure. And
no one knows where the fuck CD happens. It's a weird game.
And I wouldn't even be surprised if Sonic 3 is kind of the last Sonic movie we get. So
I'm not even fully sure that we'll get it yet, because I don't think anyone was expecting a Sonic film trilogy. It's pretty cool we even got a sequel.
I would agree with that, but I would agree with that, but with the box office sales of Sonic 2, there is no way they aren't already having a third one in production.
That's an insane idea. The fact that there could be 3 fucking huge budget Sonic movies that save Knuckles and then adapt the adventure games. I wouldn't have even dreamed of this. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, like so like I guess just to say like opening like Sonic the movie 2 opened with 71 billion in the box office.
that's
Like we'll say 71 million, which is huge.
71 million. Yeah, that's
Plus that's the biggest opening ever for a video game adaptation in the US.
well, okay. I hope that they make a third movie, but I feel
It's
like
actually it's also Jim Carrey's biggest opening of his career.
that's crazy. You think of Jim Carrey as like an icon, and here's just like a side smaller movie he's doing. It's like, no, this is huge shit. I feel like I lost the thread a bit of what we are talking about with the third movie. I think for me, we just gotta like. I'm curious to see what they can pull off tonally. I feel like they're probably going to draw from the adventure games, but like the Shadows story isn't too different from the Knuckles story in a lot of ways, and the broad strokes, and that it's like here's this character that's your antagonist, and then at the end, it kind of turns around and he's like, actually, I want to fight for good, team up. Only difference is that Shadow fucking dies.
Yeah, well, I think the thing the way that we were talking about this was like how like the second movie is already like how like the movies are already starting to mature.
Yeah,
like a bit like grow with the kind of, and I'd say probably grow with the audience is maybe the more appropriate way to look at it. Like Sonic this 2 movie, like being a few years after the first movie, is like, hey, like it's still a kids movie, but we're gonna start like
no, they're layering in some heavier themes, so.
Yeah,
I guess I can kind of see the bridge to a movie that has Shadow in it, as this character who like, but okay, like Big Pop Shadow's backstory is like Maria's death and stuff. Like, man,
they will. I think they'll definitely tone it down from the games. Like, I'm just like saying more. It's like I think we'd expect the third movie to be a bit more of the characters maturing.
Yeah,
not necessarily it becoming a darker movie, just more like the characters maturing and like maybe talking about some a bit more mature.
Let me give you my hopes for Shadow. I hope that I do hope that they poke a little fun at the character, but in a way that doesn't undermine the character, like, or not too much. Like, I like how they are able to play Knuckles for a laugh while also making us love Knuckles and care about Knuckles.
Yeah.
I would like them to do that for Shadow. I think a movie could get a lot of mileage out of his reputation as this edgelord character. And to be fair, he is kind of an edgelord character, right? But at the same time, I would like there to be real emotional depth to his story, and like he was written originally as a sincere character. With an arc and with like a sad and weird past. I think we can. I don't know how much stuff I want from Shadow the Hedgehog, the game, to be in there, but because there's already aliens in this world, you could technically do Black Doom or what. You could do something like that, but
well,
I hope they. If they kill him at the end, that's cool. But
I don't know if
one more thing though.
They will.
Adam Driver.
We'll have to see. I could see that. I'd say here's how I see it. And this will be my perspective of the series going forward. They will kill Shadow if Sonic 3 is the last movie. If Sonic 3 is not the last Sonic movie, they will keep him alive at the end. That's the way I kind of look at it. Because the only reason why they wouldn't kill him is if they want to make sure that he's still marketable for the future parts of the series.
Yeah.
But if the series is ending at 3, then they wouldn't care if they have to kill him off.
I guess. I think they should just have courage and kill him. Though, at the same time, if they don't kill him, then it would be neat if they even went in like a Sonic 06 direction, where like in the next film, he's like kind of more chilled out and is actually more just solidly kind of a good guy, but just a bit quiet. I don't know.
I mean, I can already see 20 years from now when we get the Sonic Forces adaptation and we have like a bajillion like furries running around the Earth. If anyone could save Sonic Forces, it might be the movie team.
But just
I
imagine,
hate that you're right.
imagine if they did Sonic Forces in a movie, but like way later, and it was basically like the Avengers Endgame of the Sonic universe. And so, and like fucking, there's got the final battle, like,
Actually,
and then all these ring
the
portals open, and fucking like the Sonic Riders birds fly out, and fucking,
yes,
oh
I
my
love that.
god, it'll be crazy.
Though I actually not like since you brought up Sonic 06, I think I finally understood how they're gonna do so. So the next two is gonna be Adventure 1 and 2, and then Sonic 4 is going to be it's gonna be 06 and CD because it's got all the time travel shenanigans, anyways.
Oh my god,
So
what
they
a
can do all the time
clusterfuck.
travel. They can do the time travel stuff all in one
Bro,
movie.
the video game was weird enough. I think getting Sonic to kiss a human actress, like a real human actress, would be a bit much.
No, they're gonna Shrek 2. They're gonna make Sonic a human in the movie for like.
Okay, all right. We need to start wrapping up this podcast. We're getting in trouble. Is there any way you'd like to sum up your thoughts?
I don't. Obviously, I don't think the Sonic 1 and 2 are perfect movies, but I think they're better than anyone could have asked for.
100%. 100%. I don't know what we did to deserve these, and again, they're not masterpieces, but.
And I think the thing that goes a long way is just how sincere the movies are. Like, yeah, there's still some of that like corporate like checkboxing that they do, like that sort of like cynical. Oh, we have to have the dance scene, but in a weird way, Sonic is already such a goofy franchise in the first place, where they can make those scenes still feel sincere for the characters.
There's something about Sonic, whether it's a game or a movie or whatever, where like you can have some weirdly mediocre or even jarringly bad aspects in there, but it's hard to just not love Sonic anyway. He can carry. He has this uncanny ability to carry mediocre content, and when it's good, you're like fuck yeah, and when it's not that good, I'm like it's still.
You're like fuck yeah.
It's still Sonic.
Sonic. No, there is a magic to Sonic that no other franchise has.
He's got some secret sauce, dude.
It's like people hate on Sonic 06. They hate on Sonic Forces. And people hate on Sonic Boom. But like there's still a love behind that.
Yeah, like, it's like when people like complain about stuff because they love it, and why they're still following even after something bad came out.
Like
yeah.
Like I love seeing now just like people just like who like after like the original narrative like over like Sonic Unleashed it being mid, just seeing people like loving Sonic Unleashed now.
Yeah,
like,
everyone.
At least I see that.
Man, what a franchise.
Yeah. I mean,
I just want to add as an aside. I know that we're meant to be wrapping things up, but I just remembered one more thing, which is one more hope for the next movie, which is that I hope we get more Sonic music in these movies. It's probably the one aspect of sort of fan servicey stuff that is like strangely absent, considering we've got like full on Hollywood $1 million version of Labyrinth Zone and fucking like where's it? There's a little bit in the first movie had like a Sonic Mania trailer song for like the Green Hill segment, but like there's really and there's Tom's phone ringtone and stuff.
Yeah, in the cringy wedding scene. The cringiest part of the film. It's like I should be enjoying the Sonic music, and I'm just like sitting there in the theater going, "Oh no!" Cringe.
But like you could have taken like even if it was just like final battle. Let's take one of the boss themes from the games and make it orchestral and epic. Like it could just be like subtle like that, or it wouldn't even. We could just use a few bits like that.
I was majorly disappointed they didn't play the Sonic drowning music when he was drowning.
That seemed like a really obvious thing, though. Maybe they didn't want to distract from the drama.
It would have been a tone killer, absolutely.
But it's damned if you do, damned if you don't, because we noticed that it wasn't there.
Hey guys, Trybien here. So apparently the music was in the movie. Whoops. But like they could have totally done like the really like sappy violin version.
No, the kids would have had nightmares. It's too scary even for the fucking game. Anyway,
I don't know. There's nothing scary. Actually, before we go, we should. I do want to quickly just say wasn't expecting Eggman to actually get like the master of molding, like that was like an interesting and weird direction of like him like becoming like a god for like a short period of time.
yeah, it's nice that
Like-
the movies are not just adaptations. They're willing to let Eggman go super. So
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
I think they were able to perfectly work in the classic video game Eggman robot in the movie in a context that makes sense, because within the first movie, it's like when the way the tech is, it doesn't seem possible. It's like we're never gonna get the Eggman.
That's true. He's
like,
just he hasn't developed
Eggman-
things that far. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and it's not even his aesthetic. He has like a very like that sort of like white, sleek aperture science aesthetic.
That's a good point. Yeah,
life.
he has to be fully like in kind of I am a god mode to even imagine something that looks like that. So
And
yeah.
and I will say, like, even though like I complain about Eggman's character in the future, I do kind of like want to see him going through the withdrawal of god power next movie.
Oh yeah. He's gonna be fucking nuts next time, because if
Yeah.
Jim Carrey's gonna keep upping the ante. But yeah, I think it says a lot about these movies that we can talk about them excitedly like this. I do think that they're I don't know. It's nice to have something like this in the Sonic world.
I think I know the perfect way to wrap up and sum up this movie. This movie is just like the Rube Goldberg machines at the start of the movie that Eggman was using to make coffee. Unnecessarily like complicated, so many bits and pieces, just to make a cup of coffee.
Right.
Like,
I like that.
just like and for no other reason, just because it's cool. You know, like using a mushroom Rube Goldberg machine to make coffee just because it's cool.
That says everything
Like-
that sums up our hours of conversation.
Yeah. Sonic 2 was a mushroom Rube Goldberg machine.
And this has been frozen in a landfill.
Signing off.